Unconditioned element, unconditioned Dhamma. Woman speaking. Good evening, Luangta. Luangta, how have you been after being here for many days? Woman, I'm okay. Luangta, can you explain it in detail from the heart? Woman, it is like I have learned about suffering through experiencing it in both body and mind. I've been suffering a lot. Initially, when physical and mental conditions were upsetting, I did what I have always done, which is to try to escape from physical and mental suffering. However, when I became aware of my action, I realized that this was not the right path. It happened like this for about a week. But then one day I was driving and I observed the sky. It changed from being stormy to being sunny and then raining, all in a short period of time. I reflected on my mental conditions, which behave in similar ways. This made me understand what Luangta teaches. There are only unsatisfactory conditions, and that they arise and cease. All conditions that arise are unsatisfactory and then cease by themselves. The sky above is like pure consciousness. Pure consciousness does not become unsettled, disturbed. Rather, conditions arise from pure consciousness, and they are independent of each other. Previously, I misunderstood. As I tried to calm unsettled, upsetting conditions, and once this was achieved, I clung onto it. I then realized that this is the wrong path because I experienced suffering as I clung onto it. Luangta, this is quite profound. Can you repeat what you just said? Many people have just arrived. Woman, recently my health has been poor and the mind has suffered too. Everything was going wrong simultaneously. Initially, I tried to reside in an emotional refuge like I used to do. But when I realized that this was not the right path, I let suffering take its course. I could see that everything changes quickly in its own way. My mental conditions just happened to coincide with the weather at the time. It would begin by being sunny before becoming cloudy and rainy. And then the rain would stop. The mind realized that space and sky, or pure consciousness, are undisturbed. It was not that pure consciousness turns into conditioned phenomena, but that phenomena arise independently. And I forgot to mention, I also heard a voice in my head saying that this experience is just a lesson, but what we have to experience just before death will be a lot more dramatic. Luangta, most people who practice meditation get confused on this point. There is a substratum in all beings, ourselves included. This substratum is called the conscious element or pure consciousness. It is invisible, though still conscious and fully aware of the ultimate truth. The conscious element does not arise or cease. It is the unidentifiable substratum of the mind. In fact, the substratum is just a comparison because it is intangible. One can also compare pure consciousness to a body of water over which bubbles of water form. Water and bubbles are two different things. just like pure consciousness and conditioned phenomena. Bubbles do not eliminate the body of water. Though the bubbles manifest as unwholesome thoughts, greed, or attachment, the bubbles are completely independent from the body of water, or the invisible pure consciousness. This conscious element is the knowing element. It knows that the visible phenomena are within the invisible. Each phenomena is a causal effect, hence the term conditioned. There is a causality to each phenomenon, and when its cause ends, so does the phenomenon. The unconditioned element, on the other hand, does not arise or cease. It is invisible and free from causality. These two things are independent because one is based on causality and ceases when its cause ceases, whereas the other is unconditioned. We may call the unconditioned element sunyata or the nibbana element. It is invisible and unconditioned. The presence of pure consciousness and conditioned phenomena constitute the life of all beings and continue to do so until the end of life. Death is when all causes that give rise to phenomena come to an end. What's left is the invisible, intangible, conscious awareness substratum, whereas everything that arises ceases. Luangta. People usually understand the Dhamma while listening, but they get confused when applying it in practice. The truth is that pure consciousness, as the substratum, does not disappear, but when we identify with conditioned phenomena and suffering, it is as if pure consciousness has vanished. Having wrong understanding, when we attempt to practice, we generally use our ego to try to get rid of ego. Luangta. The first incorrect path is to identify with worldly pleasure and thoughts. It is identifying ourselves with thoughts that arise dependent on seeing, hearing, touch, smell, taste, and mental formations, whether we enjoy them, like them, or dislike them. The second incorrect path is trying to get rid of conditioned phenomena. It is based on the wrong goal, which is to attain a blissful state where no manifestations can arise. This action is not natural and does not result in the arising of the invisible element. The third scenario is to escape from whatever happens and reside in a blissful, empty, or comfortable state of mind. These are just feelings that we create, not the actual reality of here and now. The ultimate truth is what we call the conscious element because it is conscious and is not subject to causality. It is therefore unconditioned. We can also call it the unconditioned element. It is unborn and uncreated, neither arising nor ceasing. No one is able to destroy it. Even when we are ignorant, pure consciousness does not cease. Likewise, when we get enlightened, pure consciousness does not arise. It is the ultimate nature. The problem is that we are ignorant. That is, we identify ourselves with conditioned phenomena. We are deluded by thoughts that drive us to annihilate mental events in the hope that we can attain blissful states, or to take refuge in pleasurable emotions such as relaxation, tranquility, and serenity. This is called delusion. Being deluded makes us unable to grasp the truth that whatever occurs in our minds is just a conditioned phenomenon that is based on other conditioned phenomena. For instance, when eyes see an object, visual perception brings about a collection of mental factors, namely sensations, cognition, and mental formations. The same is true for ear and sound, nose and smell, tongue and taste, body and touch, and mind and mental objects. Then, what follows is liking, disliking, or being neutral. The process starts from something being conditioned to arise. Upon arisen, it is recognized and thinking begins. Lack of awareness, mindfulness, when coupled with ignorance, gives rise to attachment. When meeting pleasurable objects, we desire them. On the other hand, if we experience something unpleasant, we desire to get rid of it. When we sense something that we neither like nor dislike, we are not aware and yet unknowingly identify with it. We can see that this is a conditioning process. When external sense bases come into contact with internal sense bases, the conditioning process must occur. The process continues until the end of life, when internal bases, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, disintegrate. With understanding of the ultimate truth, what is left after death is the unconditioned. It is the invisible conscious element. It is returning to the source, the ultimate source. It is not that we, as a separate self, return, but that the only thing left is the conscious element that has neither a beginning nor an ending. All phenomena that begin and end are conditioned. Ignorance is clinging to a sense of self or believing there is a true self. Once an ignorant person dies, the attachment of self creates a transparent body that bears the result of karma. The transparent body gets reborn in different realms: animal, ghost, hell, heaven, demigod, or human. This is because one has yet to fully understand the unconditioned and can only identify with the conditioned. When pure consciousness is encountered, that's when Dhamma is encountered. When pure consciousness is reached, Dhamma is reached. In meditation practice, people generally attempt to convert conditioned phenomena to the unconditioned and try to preserve pure consciousness. They get themselves mixed up and practice in many different unhelpful ways. For example, 1. Using self, which is the conditioned, to find consciousness. 2. Trying to be one with consciousness. 3. Trying to prevent consciousness from thinking. 4. creating a false sense of consciousness knowingly or unknowingly. This false sense of consciousness is illustrated in the following story. There were Chinese people who immigrated on a boat. They were poor and only ate rice porridge using boiled rocks. There were Chinese people who migrated on a boat. They were poor and only ate rice porridge using rocks boiled in brine. They would dip the brined rocks in the porridge and suck salty porridge out of the rocks, while at the same time looking at a picture of salted fish and imagining they were eating salted fish. This false sense of eating salty fish satisfied those Chinese each time they ate. Those who create a void in their mind and mistake it for nibbana are no different than the people who eat porridge with brined rocks while thinking about salted fish. They might do this unknowingly, but I never successfully change what they believe by admonishing them. This is because they trust in themselves so firmly. No matter what arises in their minds, such as anxiety, they reside in this empty space as a refuge. They feel that they can't survive without it. I've never been able to correct them because they think they have attained nibbana. In fact, it is a false nibbana that they create, just like the picture of salted fish. To practice correctly, we have to understand the reality of here and now, that conditioned phenomena are arising and ceasing according to other factors, and that they are not the deathless and unconditioned. All conditions are put together by other factors, and when those factors end, so do the conditions. The sense of self is also conditioned by thoughts. Ignorant mind that clings onto the five aggregates, body, mind, sensations, memory, thoughts, consciousness, leads to the belief that the aggregates are the self or belong to oneself. In reality, the ignorant mind is also conditioned. We just need to observe the true nature of the conditioned phenomena to see that they are in fact conditioned and are independent from the unconditioned. The unconditioned element is not conditioned by other factors. It is deathless and indestructible. Once we understand this fact, we let conditioned phenomena be as they are, while the pure consciousness is aware that the pure consciousness itself is independent. What begins and ends will continue to manifest until the end of this lifetime. Good and bad deeds still affect the conditioned, making conditioned phenomena unsatisfactory. Karma takes effect only until the end of this lifetime, if this will be the last time we are born. It is like a character in a show that has ended and is not reborn into another show with other people in another role, such as a wife, a husband, a close relative, or an animal like a dog or cat, or a ghost, a demigod, or a diva. The basis for the end of rebirth, or not being born as a new character in a new show is the knowledge that arises from the contemplation on dispassion that arises from seeing things as they really are. Such contemplation results in detachment from everything, just like expired glue that cannot stick to anything. The deliverance of the heart is called Nibbana. This is the path of every noble person. If we understand this in our hearts and we have some experience in practice, it becomes easy. With right effort, it becomes an individual